hit nobody from there. He's just wasting his bullets.
Maybe an old man like you needs a better target. What that son of a bitch done?
This is Lonesome Dove, a little town on the Texas border. Not much goes on here. Big dreams tend to pass it by, but that's only because they haven't met Captain Woodrow F. Call yet. He's all business, a former ranger who now runs a small cattle outfit with his best friend and partner in crime, Gus. Gus is nothing like Woodrow. He's the kind of guy who always has a smile on his face, a good story to tell, and a way with the ladies. Life's quieter now, but adventure has a way of finding men like them. And that's how our story kicks off. Jake rolls into town, telling Woodrow and Gus about the promised land, Montana, the chance to start the first cattle ranch there. Woodrow is restless and tired of the slow life in Lonesome Dove, sees it as his way out. He convinces Gus to round up a herd and take on the 2,500-mile journey north through some of the roughest, most dangerous country out there.
You ready, Gus?
Well, hell yes, I'm ready, Woodrow.
We've had some good Western shows in recent years, like Godless, Hell on Wheels, American Primeval just came out, and if you don't hate Sheridan's works, you could even throw 1883 in there, which clearly takes inspiration from Lonesome Dove.
We are in the land of no mercy now.
But Lonesome Dove is a different kind of Western, the kind we just don't see much anymore. It's old school in the best way. The world is rough and brutal. It's got adventure, tragedy, humor, romance, and a damn good story with some of the best characters you'll ever see.
Rather well made and very beautiful. It's exciting and adventurous and funny and heartbreaking. Those are all excellent ingredients for improving an audience's time.
This is storytelling at its finest. It was written by the man himself, Larry McMurtry, the author of the novel. There are no bad characters here. Everyone's interesting. Each character has their moment, like the deputy searching for the sheriff, or Miss Lorena Wood, whose story is one to survive in a world that doesn't offer much mercy. Everyone has a purpose. Hell, even the two pigs have their own little story arc.
You'll have us in laughing stock of this whole country with that we don't rent pigs part.
Well, we don't rent pigs. And I figure it's better to say it right up front, because a man that does like to rent pigs he's hard to stop.
And the side stories are really good. You could make a whole movie just about the sheriff's story.
I hadn't read the book before I read the screenplay, but once I started to read the book, it was so helpful to me. It gave me a world of, the whole era was right there in the style of writing, in the details of his description, and the interior monologue of the characters. You go into each character as much as any other character, so you'd really get different points of view of that time and how hard it really was to survive then, and the small things that were the joys of life. Taking a tub, pumping it out of the earth, that was, or dipping it over into the Rio Grande. I thought the Rio Grande was this huge river because I thought of it like the Grand Canyon, the Rio Grande. I pictured this huge thing. It's this little stream across from where we had the Lonesome Dove set, the town.
Larry McMurtry actually wrote the script as a movie before the novel, and it was supposed to star John Wayne as Call and James Stewart as Gus. But after seeing Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall in those roles, it's hard to imagine anyone else.
For all you know, it invites people to rob us.
Well, first man comes along that can read Latin is welcome to rob as far as I'm concerned. I'd like the chance to shoot at an educated man once in my life.
Their chemistry is perfect, and the way their characters talk is so witty and full of personality. You could frame the dialogue and hang it on your wall.
Well, the older the violin, the sweeter the music.
They just are those characters, especially Duvall as Gus. It might sound like a stretch to put him up there with Tony Soprano or Don Draper, but honestly, he's just that good.
What's good for me ain't necessarily good for the weak-minded.
The writer said he took inspiration for Gus and Call from Don Quixote, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
You know, that if you seek origins for Gus and Call, it really isn't in my family or any rancher or cavalry that I ever knew. It's the Don and Sancho.
At first, they approached me for the other part, and I said, no, I've done that. Let me try this other part. It's the kind of part I've done on stage before, but never like in film, that kind of outgoing guy. And I said, that's the only part I want to do. So I said, give it to me. Let me run with it. I'm ready, you know. I got in good shape, and that was it.
He's a rather quick actor and a very good one. You don't have to waste a lot of time talking when you're working with an actor of that quality.
I wanted to work with Duvall, and that was a really wonderful experience for me to work with him. Well, he has a sense of humor about the business in general and his part in it, and I appreciate that a lot because so many people don't. And he can crack you up if you need it, and he likes to get stuff out of you. And I think earlier in my career that would have put me off to have an actor do that with me. But he did, and I really appreciated it.
He's an extraordinary actor, and I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who was so giving to other actors. And he thinks for you all the time. He's happiest when he's giving, and he's remarkable to work with. It was such a pleasure to work with him. He's a fantastic actor.
I felt it was a privilege to play that part. Great part.
Maybe Gus McGrady's my favorite character I've ever played.
At least as good as Hamlet. Well, Woodrow, here's where we find out if we was meant to be cowboys, I reckon.
The supporting cast is just one of the many reasons this show works so well. We've got Diane Lane as Miss Lorena Wood, plus Danny Glover, Robert Urich, and Anjelica Huston.
Portraying Lorena was nice because it wasn't just your stereotypical roles that you've seen in more old-fashioned Westerns. You know, the style of filming was almost limited as much as the story they were telling. You know, it was very, Annie, get your gun. I mean, it was great, but it was also very Oklahoma, like Broadway. And this is much more gritty. I'll never forget the scenes we did with Blue Duck where I'm in the dirt every day with the scorpions and spiders and ants crawling in my skirt. It was very adventurous. I said, that's it. I've done everything in one day. There's nothing left that can crawl up my skirt. There's no snakes here. It's too dry. But it was heavy. I was all bruised.
Then there's Chris Cooper, D.B. Sweeney, Frederick Forrest, Ricky Schroeder, Barry Corbin, Glenn Headley, and even Steve Buscemi pops up.
Won't bother me none to kill some more.
The production design is pretty good, and there are some great shots, but it's not very cinematic. You can tell they didn't have a huge budget. But this is where Lonesome Dove get real. It peels back that Hollywood gloss. This isn't a romanticized West. It's not full of big action scenes or fancy quick draws. It's more grounded. The world is brutal and unforgiving. Survival is a daily struggle, and death is always right there, every step of the way. And the attention to detail in this show is just amazing.
I'm not preconditioned by Hollywood Westerns and stuff like that, so I think I've brought a fresh look to the whole sort of Western genre, if you like. And after all, this is hopefully a revival of the Western, and we've really gone back to the history books and not gone for the kind of Hollywood costumes and the way they wear their guns in the Hollywood Westerns and stuff, but really how it was. And you know, that's been forgotten over the years, I think. And Americans have never been very good at looking at their past, I think, accurately. And hopefully in Lonesome Dove we're doing that. What we've tried to do, we have 9 different towns. You know, each town has a different look. People have jobs. People aren't just walking about the streets. They're doing things. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people have spent the money or just taken the trouble to do before that kind of detail. You know, we've got a terrific production design team who are really very supportive and want to get it absolutely right too.
The violence in the show, it's not like a Tarantino movie. It's not there just to shock you. It has a purpose. It shows how brutal that time was. So when something happens, you feel it. Every loss, every act of violence, it all leaves a mark on the story. When it comes to Western TV shows, it might be blasphemy to say this, but Lonesome Dove might be just as good as Deadwood, if not better.
Swearengen,
doesn't give a fuck.
Thank you for watching, and for more underrated movies, be sure to subscribe to Underrated Cinema.